Like seriously, like I don't usually rep that type of shirts, but I think I've been using like today earlier, like you see the shirt I was wearing, the Texas A&M shirt. That was like one of Brady's hand me downs from like high school or middle school or something. That thing was ridiculously tight, at least for me. But anyways, that's the intro. This is Alex Caravan, Director of Data Science, VP of Business Ops. Episode probably 95 of the Driveline R&D podcast. If not, then just check the title.
95.
95,
Yeah,
95. All right, let's
We're
go.
sticking with it.
Repping a warm Coors Light, and today I got.
Maxx Garrett, driveline hitting trainer, catching trainer. I'm drinking on some salt water.
Let's go. Also, this is gonna be one of a kind podcast episode. It's got this only one that's gonna have the the different lights in the background. So this will
Is it
hopefully
changing colors?
yeah, they're changing colors. So hopefully it'll have a nice visual appeal for our YouTube.
Oh no, I think we just have a blink. We got like a fade.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it has been blue, but yeah, I just saw I saw something change.
Something.
Yeah,
There we
fading
go.
out. Okay. Well, yeah, all right. Still the only podcast episode that has active.
Got to bring a little flair.
Yeah, and we're upping Gonzaga, swag. Yeah. What year did you graduate from?
Zag swag. Yep. Yeah, I was a JUCO band for 2 years at Columbia Basin College and a couple years at Gonzaga.
What years did you graduate?
Yeah, I
Or go
graduated
there?
in 2012.
Okay. Yeah. Anyways, good to have you on, man. Do you want to kind of like give tell people how you started at Driveline?
Yeah.
Ended up where you are because you got a pretty interesting path.
Yeah, got started. I was basically playing some independent ball, and I was like, man, I need some ABs. I grew up in Washington, so I heard about Driveline. I coached at the junior college I played at, so I was like, I was familiar with what was going on here. I was like, hey, there's a lot of pitchers up there, and so I reached out and was like, hey, do you have people that are like getting at bats off your pitchers? Like, I'll catch them. If I can get some ABs, and they're like, well, we're actually starting a hitting program.
Yeah.
Do you want to go through that? Like, do you want to hit here? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I'll start tomorrow. And I remember actually being really frustrated because it like took a week to like get set up, but yeah. So I got started.
What year was this?
Man, I think it was like 16, 17,
Okay.
somewhere in there. 16 maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, I came out and I got to meet Jason, and at the time it was Jason. He just brought on Gordo.
Yeah.
And got to kind of be a guinea pig through a lot of the stuff we were doing on the hitting side. I remember seeing the first batted ball report.
Yeah.
Getting to go over that. It's crazy how things have changed. But yeah, went through training here. I learned a ton, just like an approach to training hitting and as an athlete, like how you approach training hitting, and going through a big change of like, searching for the perfect feel and the perfect swing to, having a lot of movement solutions.
Yeah.
So I got to do all that, and then went and played a year, and then came back, and it just natural for me to train here. And I was like, man, I'm not going to find anywhere else like this. And so yeah, I continued doing that, and it got to a point where after a couple years, I was like, man, I always wanted to work in Driveline. I'd coached and gave lessons, and so I was really familiar with doing that. And but I was really interested in the business side of things, because that's where I felt I lacked experience.
Yeah.
So got approached about a position being open here, and thought it'd be a pretty good opportunity to get started on, and it was as a business associate.
Yeah. And I do want to talk about like your lore and your place in Driveline lore, as also your stint as head of CR, including selling that vibrating massage ball to a construction worker, which is one of Bodie's all-time favorite stories. But I was just on the hitting side real quick, or just like when you started training. Do you remember what technologies and what the training regimen was then?
Yeah. We had hit tracks. Of course, we'd implemented some blast. Like we weren't wearing a blast every time we hit.
Yeah.
But we were wearing it certain days, and man, it was largely up to like the trainer how hard they wanted to create the environment that day. But we do some warm ups, flips, and hit off a machine environment that was basically like, hey, whatever,
Yeah.
maybe these 3 or 4 guys need, or
Yeah.
but you take for granted a lot of the things that we were trying to do, and the training implements that we had. There was the penny bat, the OG long
Yeah.
wood training bats. The under and overload implements we were using, it was just kind of like, everything's laid out,
Yeah.
and they're just like, yeah, use whatever.
Yeah.
It's, if it's hard, we're probably gonna do more of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
If it makes you feel good, like, do those.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot of discovery, a lot of trying things out, which was pretty fun at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, even just thinking about the drills and equipment, like what are some differences between now and then?
Just way more personalized.
Yeah.
Have a lot better understanding of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And before it was more just exploring, and we still do a ton of that
Yeah.
with guys. Like, your guy assesses and he has these movement issues, and you want to change these things in his swing. Like, maybe it's bat path. That these drills are usually good at fixing these things. But there's still some exploration with that kid. Like, if he's working on a load, like, does the hook help him get to this better spot? Or maybe the Kershaw really helps him set into his backside really well. So there still is that exploration, but back then it was just like, all right, there's all the bats. Go ahead and use whatever you want.
Yeah.
Try to figure out how we can hit the ball harder.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I'm curious. I mean, we have resources and stuff online for people, but just for anyone kind of listening and curious about some specific hitting training. Do you want to talk about some of your favorite drills and like what they are and what they're usually prescribed for, like when it comes to programming a hitter?
Yeah. I think we have some of the core drills are laid out in Hacking the Kinetic Chain hitting.
Yeah.
Which if you haven't pre-ordered that to get it, I would definitely do so, because it's
I think you can just order it at this point.
Yeah. You should be able to order it.
Yeah, pre-ordering.
But really, really cool piece of material. It walks you through everything. But the main drills in that are a lot of things you'll see. And if you come train with us, like first day or two, first few days, where we kind of go through those drills so you can understand them, their purpose, and how to execute them. But yeah, I mean, like, taking any of those and a lot of places, like especially with our interns and training them, is like, here are things we're seeing in the mocap lab with in a guy's report, that he's struggling with, and
sorry. So I guess again, one step back. So nowadays when a hitter comes, because they have the assessment, ideally, unless there's like some injury or some other reason they wouldn't have it. They have the assessment in mocap. They have like HP stuff. They have like PT stuff if they need. I don't, I'm not super dialed on it either. Like, do you mind laying out like the first week of a hitter's training, and then we can talk a little bit about drills?
Yeah, no doubt. Guy comes in here, we're looking for. We usually ask him to train for a week with us to assess over a week. We can definitely get that done in a day if need be, but more batted balls the better, right? Just gives us a little bit more robust of a sample of who they are as a hitter, and a lot of the pro guys will have a good idea of that. Them coming in. But basically hit it on the hit tracks. If we could get 300 balls in play, that'd be sweet. Our environments sometimes don't allow for that. Because that's a lot of balls in play in a competitive environment. But they're gonna hit in the lab. We're gonna get an average and be able to see individual swings, but an average of 20, 25 swings in there. And then out on the floor, training every day in sort of our group environments. They'll be wearing blast every day. So every swing will have blast. Every swing will have hit tracks data. So that combined with the mocap report of how they're moving, we'll supplement with K-Vest with some guys, especially if they're going to have access to it later on. So we can have those numbers here. We can see how they change and then retest when they're not with us.
K-Vest was basically measures like a bunch of angles and like some kinematics too, like torso velo, pelvis velo, hand velo, right?
Yep, four sensors gives us basically four speeds, timing of 4 different segments. And then the HP assessment is really, really cool. Those guys have been able to develop a way for us to. I mean, it's one of our best predictors of anything
Yeah.
is our HP assessment predicting, velocity and bat speed.
Yeah.
So that piece is really cool. Gets to see what type of athlete you are in an area. Sometimes there's an easy area for them to attack in the weight room.
Yeah.
That combines, with the movement screen with PT with Dylan, putting that all together and going over all of that information in an athlete meeting.
Yeah.
Where we basically try to figure out your goals, what you want to do, what you want to become, and then lay out a plan to achieving those things and working our way towards those goals.
Yeah. So what are some of your go-to drills that you find yourself like prescribing over and over to most of the athletes that kind of come in? Because I'm assuming a lot of them show like similar traits, like similar things to work on.
Yeah, there's definitely certain archetypes that show up. I think we can get into drills, but I think the biggest thing is just like athlete education. I think it's huge,
Yeah.
and them understanding. Talking through it with a guy this morning. Him learning. He understood what the attack angle was, but the relationship of that to timing and point of contact in the natural arc of his swing. He's got. His attack angle looks high, and so he's like, oh, am I hitting these too far out front? Well, it's like, no, look at the point of contact here. It's actually, you're hitting these too deep. You have too big of a loop in your swing. You're getting too low, having to work up too high. So that's why your attack angle is showing up high.
Yeah.
And when you do get out front, it's really high, and we're topping balls. So like a guy that, is losing his barrels, getting too far, missing underneath a lot, and then, top spin to the pull side.
Yeah.
Maybe we're working some offset closed. Where he's being a lot more direct with his path, and working on hitting balls basically out front, and staying behind those, hitting those with a lot more true spin.
Yeah.
Guys with loading issues, we have like basically a suite of loading drills. Guys with striding issues, there's kind of a suite of drills that are more aligned towards the stride. And then, we have some drills that are more along the swing phase. And again, like the Hack and the Connect training book kind of goes into these and we'll lay this out. And not only are we looking to change movement, but it also depends on what our goals are for that day as far as intent. We break things out on the floor as, a bat speed day where we're less maybe specific about how we're moving, more about moving fast. And then like a bat to ball day, where everything's about smash and making quality contact consistently, finding barrels as consistently as we can, where maybe we'll dive into a little bit more movements and not worried about like, of course, we're going to still see those bat speed numbers and where they're at. But our focus today is squaring up as many balls as we can.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was gonna say on the so some people at Driveline know, I don't know if fans of the podcast know, but you're also the internal like catching guru, and that's been a lot of your initial passion, like kind of pushing the field on catching research, which has just typically been behind pitching and hitting, and I think there's like some challenges to it which we can talk about. But I was gonna say from a catching point of view, I know we've gone through several different like. We've kind of had like a rough catching assessment or catching like sort of training. We've talked about like selling like catching snapshots or having catching reports that R&D developed. And again, there's so many things we usually juggle and kind of prioritize from. We got to streamline this product. This makes sense to target for this many people. This is like something specialized we'll give to any catcher that wants to do it, but isn't necessarily something that makes sense to put out to the general population. For my own EDU as well, because I don't even know what the current state is. Like, what is kind of what we offer for catchers or anyone that's trying to specifically train catching?
Yeah, so pro off season, basically we're with the catchers a couple times a week. The cool part is when I'm not with them, we have bullpens going on, we have live ABs going on, so we get kind of that live part where we get to test. You kind of get to see what you're made of a little bit and see if we can transfer the stuff we're doing, in catching sessions to, a live pitcher.
Yeah.
And so pro off season, we, those guys are able to train together, which is pretty cool. Summer coming up, be the same thing where we're I'm with them with those groups. Usually spend, there's always a receiving element to it because that's just the nature of catching. You're gonna always be receiving, right?
Yeah.
Usually once a week we try to get together for their velo day. So that day will be like some receiving, but we're also focused on the exchange, the footwork, and the actual throw piece. So I think a huge missing piece of the exchange and footwork, and when we're working on throwing, is like guys just don't throw when they do those drills.
Yeah.
So like, they make their exchange look good, and they get you in a position, they're nice and low, and it's like that looks good, but they don't actually throw from that position. When they throw, they stand up and they pull down. Like, so like they're basically repping out this movement that they're that's not how they throw. So I think the throwing piece of it, whenever you're doing exchange and footwork stuff, like even if it's light, and we're monitoring how much our catchers are throwing, that piece is added in because it really helps the catcher feel like, am I in a position where I can really create some force?
Yeah. Do you remember that? I mean, I think I know the answer to this because I think we've talked about this, but like the original article Brady and I wrote like a few years ago on catcher, like exchange time and pop time pop time. And just we talked about how much how much of an impact it is for catchers throw harder, to get a second base, versus where I think traditionally the focus has been on like them like an exchange or like catching it and popping up. It's like, sure, like, obviously you can shave like milliseconds off that, but increasing arm strength, and like velo is like where you can really improve your time a second. And we've talked about like that's just something that typically like a lot of coaches and the community hasn't like really focused on, right? Like even though the evidence is pretty clear if you think about it from a math point of view. Do you think that's still the case, or have things kind of changed in the last couple of years?
I think it's becoming more and more prevalent, especially with like the threat of automatic the ABS system, so automatic balls and strikes being called. But also it's just like recruited pretty heavily, and with showcases, like they just like we want it now. They measure it a lot, so they're measuring how hard all position players are throwing the ball. So I think it's a little bit more important there, but and especially with younger athletes coming to us, professional teams come to us about like how do we get our guys throwing harder from this position, and so I think it's something that's become definitely more popular. And when you look at the breakdown of pop time or the throw to second, you basically have that exchange, the throw velocity, and then the accuracy, right? So it's kind of the three pieces you're looking at, and that ball time of the ball in the air is the longest part of that. And throwing hard gives you a lot of luxury, right? And of course, accuracy is super important. And the exchange, getting it out quickly, and everyone's always like, oh, but if I shave down my exchange time, that and however much I shave off that affects my throwdown. But if we're doing so at the cost of velocity, or if we're just not training velocity, I think that's a bigger issue. If we're not training to get our arms stronger, to throw harder, to throw more accurate, to last longer in a season, we're really missing the boat there.
I think position players throwing in general has been more of a focus, and like more like people realizing like that actually can have an impact, and it's just low hanging fruit, right? Especially in the bigs, like most position players like just nowhere near the amount of effort put into a velo program as like they should, and you only need like a little bit to like drastically improve. I remember in the podcast episode of Rob Hill, at this point almost over 2 years ago, like one of the first things he did that really caught the Dodgers like front office eyes was just teaching a couple position players like how to throw harder. There's a little bit of the technique adjustment and some like dictated training, and then
a little bit
of
arm
like,
action.
People were just ripping heaters like across the diamond, and again, it's like I think the popularity of Statcast readings on on infield and outfield throws, as well as probably making it more popular because people can actually see like who throws hard as hell. Like Aaron Hicks is fucking
Yeah.
throws ropes from the outfield. Who's that guy? Uh, I'm blanking on him. It's embarrassing. The Pirates shortstop.
Oh, Neil.
Yeah, yeah,
O'Neal
yeah, yeah,
Cruz.
yeah. Doesn't he? Didn't he like throw like?
Yeah, he's basically got the hardest hit ball and the hardest thrown ball. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
Position
yeah,
player.
yeah. Which is nuts. But yeah. What do you think is something that a school or college can kind of do to start targeting that? Because my mind immediately jumps to like even just using pulse as a proxy, either in practice or game if you're allowed to like wear it on the field. Because that'll at least keep arm speed readings, and also like we'll keep pitch counts too. Because I think that's something to keep in mind for catching as well, right? Like if you're gonna throw the ball and you're gonna like put a work, accumulate a workload on throwing, you're just gonna throw way more than a regular position player. Like might as well track it and modulate it. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think like you said, super low hanging fruit. There hasn't been much any resources around it. There, guys aren't really addressing it. It's kind of just like, man, I hope
Yeah,
my outfielders' arms are good, and they do any outie every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they're hanging, and they hope to recover by the next game by the midweek, and then hope they recover by the Friday again. So I think people underestimate. Not only it's like, yeah, I might not have time to get through a full velocity training program before the season starts, but just implementing some arm care throwing protocols, pre-post throwing. So throwing protocols, I would say we're going to go over two things. Throwing protocols, because all our position players pretty much do this, and they go through it, and they're just like, I can't believe my arm feels as good. It's never felt as good.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, we might not see the velocity until we get through those, a whole 6 weeks of that. But right away you can put some arm care protocols in place, and then guys just feel better every day.
Yeah.
Right. And that's maybe an error here or there, throwing errors here and there, and now practices maybe get a little better. You can do more things at practice, and then the second thing, just you're talking about workload, and it's just like, if we're gonna do a bunch of ground balls, and a lot of times coaches are just like, how your arms feel, they feel good, all right, then we're gonna throw across. They don't feel good, all right, we won't. But actually having a plan, an understanding of how many throws we want our position players making during the week. Catchers are notoriously just like ransacked and have to make tons of throws all the time, all week, and then move right into summer ball, and their arms are hanging by the end of that.
How often do catchers get the yips?
I've seen a couple cases, and I've tried to help guys through a few of those. We actually had a good story. We had a guy that had the yips, and he was basically thrown in, and I wasn't really aware of it. It's not something you go out and tell people you got him, but he was basically thrust into an environment that was pretty high leverage. I think it was pro day, and he was having to warm guys up, but he was in the old R&D cage. In 4-3, and you know how low that hung, and so he was trying to like throw the ball back to the pitcher,
just in the ceiling of it.
But like he's got to kind of get to a lower arm slot and throw it, and like he can't be rolling it back. That's what he did at first, because one, he had the yips. Two, it's kind of hard to do so anyways. But those guys are getting pissed because they're trying to get ready to have a moment to go get signed. A pretty big. So he's like, man, I got to throw it back to these guys. This is terrible. They got to walk down the mound, pick this up. So he just like, basically had to buck up and play catch with these guys, throwing it back. And the environment was just like terrible to throw in. And he was like, yeah, I think this cured the yips. Like, And ever since then, he like felt perfectly fine throwing, never had a problem with it again.
So have people catch him
so maybe,
as a solution for yips?
You could try that out. Yeah, you got to set up a pretty intense pro day, but it was I've seen little cases, and as people explain it and you understand it, and looking into it, it's just a really big fear, like just a ton of doubt, and causes the body to do some weird things.
It's more of this kind of a fan question for me, but I've always, I mean, obviously, like, like, or not, I shouldn't say obviously, but to me, it seems like, the more a pitch moves, especially like late break ones, like nasty sliders or curves, like they're harder to catch. But like from a catcher point of view or catching coach point of view, like what makes like, 'cause, I'll watch like bullpen videos on like momentum or like from our stuff, where we're having like people that aren't, they're not like the most skilled catchers in the world per se, right? It's players developing. They might be between college and minors in the big leagues. And they'll certainly like drop some balls or let some go. Like which ones are the toughest ones to catch? What really makes like a ball hard to catch?
I think nothing is really that hard to catch once you've seen it,
Yeah,
but the inconsistencies,
yeah,
like I think most catchers probably agree. Like some guys, when a guy has a splitter, it's like okay,
yeah,
you know, a little bit uneasy because like a lot of times just sometimes it's straight
yeah,
and sometimes it drops a couple feet,
yeah,
and you're trying to with runners on, you're trying to decide, if I have to block this pitch or try to catch it at the bottom of the zone. And so I think anything that's inconsistent, I think that's
yeah,
where things get really tough. Same thing happens with guys that, you see a catcher miss one off his glove and you think it's a fastball, but it's like he just cut it.
yeah,
He normally has a little bit of run, like a little
yeah,
two seam action to his fastball. And like this one he cut,
yeah,
so like of course that can throw guys off. And I think, when guys are inconsistent with pitches, like their catchers now can't be as aggressive with their movements as far
yeah.
as framing goes. As far as their setup, they got to kind of play it safe, which usually hinders performance of like getting strikes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not that relatable of a story because I've never caught at any level, or played baseball. But I remember I was playing catch with Brady out on Alki Beach like a few years ago when I was trying to throw for a bit, and my shoulder was killing me that day. Like I legit thought I had like nerve impingement or something because I threw like I think I just didn't have any like workload buildup. I threw like 60 pitches of back and forth with Brady, like playing catch. Like none of them like hard, but just like the
Yeah,
the load of 60 pitches for me,
yeah,
was just like a lot. So when I started trying to air him out, like I just could not throw hard, and I was trying to catch Brady, and he was throwing like, I mean, Brady has like a kind of a funky delivery, like sidearm,
yeah, yeah,
throws pretty hard,
yeah,
has
yeah.
like 5 or 6 different pitches. So
Not a
he's
fun catch partner.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So and he's obviously not throwing him like full game speed, but bro, I was just like I remember like squatting down in the sand, and it's like that change looks like it breaks like 12 inches, like right in front of your face, and it's like no shot to catch it. It
Yeah,
just gave me like a newfound appreciation for like
just
catching
wearing your
people
thumb out.
yeah,
Yeah.
with a large arsenal.
Were you yipped up, dude? Do you have the yips?
I mean, I don't even know if he described it as a yips,
Just,
but
just pain.
yeah, just
You,
pain.
you weren't having to like memorize a Playboy magazine and what they like.
Is that another cure for the yips?
Yeah,
Memorizing a Playboy magazine?
yeah. Major League. Yeah,
Oh, from the movie?
yeah,
Is that what they do?
yeah. You basically got to get their mind on something else.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So yeah, keep that in your back pocket if you ever have to pull that out.
I'll try that next time. I have some material. I have some material in the circumstance I use. Yeah. I mean, do you want to talk about like, kind of some of the catching research we've done over the years? I know you at one point charted like several thousand pitches.
Yeah, shout out Zach Jones.
Yeah.
He did a ton of these.
Driveline remote trainer still with the Phils, I think, right?
Yeah, still with the Phillies. Yeah, he did a ton of these going through. Basically, the premise was we're gonna, Dan O'Coin put together a list of really good frames.
Yeah.
So like pitches that we didn't expect to be called strikes,
Yeah.
get called strikes, and then opposite of that,
Yeah.
and then kind of a control group
Yeah.
of random pitches.
Yeah.
And we set up kind of like what we thought, matters for catcher framing. And then we basically charted all those movements.
Yeah.
We're like, all right, this matters. This might matter. We'll chart
Yeah.
it. So you had these list of things to chart for all these frames. And so the first time we did this, it kind of came out that, a lot of things that we felt pretty comfortable with, and some other studies that have been done, like head movement, head dropping was like not helping get
Yeah.
strikes. We kind of run this a few times, and I remember Christian Hook too, also digging through some of this data. But some simple things that takeaways from this are basically probably in this order is what we call negative movement. Negative movement is bad, and that's basically the glove at receipt, so at catch, the glove moving away from the strike zone.
Yeah.
So any negative movement was basically a great way to lose a strike or not get one. Second thing was movement towards the center of the strike zone. Was a great indicator of helping that pitch get called a strike, and then basically limiting total body movement. So just doing so with the glove, which is why setup is pretty important. But I would say that those couple things. If you're working with catchers or you are a catcher, it's just like no negative movement. So and then when you are framing, movement back towards the middle of the zone is kind of like a good base to build on. We didn't see guys get penalized for lots of glove movement if it was in the right direction.
So almost setting up then. I mean, I know it's overly simplistic, but like if you think someone's gonna throw like a slider like down and away, setting up a little bit like further away from the batter, so then like any glove movement in, you can kind of get away with if you're like more outside versus like inside, you have to like reach down. Like, that's like a viable takeaway.
I mean, setup is just like a huge thing, and you see it with guys now because that's kind of how things are shifting with a lot of teams and trying to get more strikes and pitchers throwing harder and having nastier stuff. But guys could set up. If I'm set up on the outside corner, I have a much better chance of getting a pitch that's off the outside part of the plate. If I'm set up middle, it's a little bit harder for me to do that. And you've seen like some catchers, their numbers have significantly changed. And they might be good catchers, but like they're having to set up middle. Right. And now the edges become a lot tougher to get. So they might not be losing any strikes, but they're not really getting any because they're used to setting up. But their teams now are like, we need you to set up middle.
Wait, so why are they doing that? Why are you telling them?
Because pitchers throw more strikes with guys set up down the middle. So like they're getting a center target, they're aiming more center, and a lot of relievers throw hard, nasty stuff, and even some starters like Ohtani is not sitting there trying to nibble edges. He's throwing firm, throwing stuff with lots of movement, nasty stuff for strikes. So teams are moving to this, so where you see their catchers setting up more middle or slightly shaded, which makes getting those pitches that have a little chance of getting called a strike a lot harder. What we're doing is we're training that. We're training for guys to be set up middle, and I think that's just the way to approach it. Is let's teach guys how to frame the ball when it's not perfectly centered in on their body, and we have a lot of really good tools to do that, but. I think that's where things are moving. Is teams are going to want their guys to set up to get more strikes from their pitchers, more middle of the zone, and then maybe picking and choosing some spots to move off the plate.
I noticed a big thing a couple years ago. I don't know if it's still a discourse, but do you remember people like debating like throwing from one, like popping up on a knee and then throwing versus like staying like kind of in the same stance? Is that still a big topic that people go back and forth on? I
would say at the amateur level, the one knee stance is still pretty talked about. A lot of people got thoughts and opinions on that. At the big league level, it's you pretty much see everyone in a one knee stance. There are a few guys that don't, and that happens. We see guys in training here too. They're just like more comfortable and they do a better job of framing. Out of a traditional stance, and I think at the pro level they just understand that how important framing can be and how much that can change a game.
So are people teaching are people increasingly teaching one knee more and more?
You definitely see it more and more. It's more popular. Of course, at the highest level, and that's trickled down. A lot of colleges implemented it very quickly, and they've been doing it for years. And it's becoming more popular. It's just like people, a lot of athletes are like, oh, I feel like I can't block as far, right? But it's like, yeah, you might not be able to block, pitches 5 feet off the plate in the dirt.
Yeah.
But like that's an extremely hard block
Yeah.
anyways.
Should you be optimizing for like that
Exactly.
that
How
pitch anyways?
how often does that happen?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, and when we did the study in here, we had our catchers that come through full summer of catchers and testing one knee throw and the traditional stance throw. We did not see a velo decrease.
Yeah.
In exchange times.
Okay.
Were oftentimes better.
Yeah.
We had what I'll say is it's a lot more of a stable stance to move from.
Yeah.
And that's typically the right knee down.
Yeah.
So that became kind of like the first place we'll go to.
Yeah.
As far as like a runners on secondary stance is a right knee down. It's much easier to pop up out of. But when we tested that, guys were not losing velocity. They felt a lot more stable. They can be a lot more consistent. The exchange with pitches like, way low and away or way low and in can be difficult. But again, I think if you let guys explore and give them an opportunity to get reps at it, they not only they feel more comfortable, but I think they can learn to throw harder out of it. I think they can be quicker out of it because we saw it happen without any of that. Just being like, hey, I know you've never done this before, but let's try it. And then showing them, but like we're not losing anything with this. In fact, some guys like you actually throw harder from this. It's the same thing with one knee blocking. Most guys are like, oh, I don't think I can block out of this. I don't think I can move. And it's like you're already down on a knee, so you just have to turn your glove over. Yeah. Right. So like the decision time. So I have to make my decision to block, and if I'm on a traditional stance, I have to get my feet out from under me or come up to get down. So that's what takes the longest. Yeah. Right. It takes a long time to get down into a position to block. Yeah. But if I'm already in one knee, like my time to get in a position to block is significantly shortened. Yeah. So it helps guys to make that decision later. There is possibly, with most guys, to one way, there's less mobility. Yeah. But again, like we're optimizing for better receiving. Yeah. What's
gonna have the biggest impact? Yeah. What's gonna have the biggest impact? Yeah. Yeah. Having like like a 5% increase in effectiveness on blocking or throwing a second or whatever across like 99% of plays. It's probably more important than having like a 20% increase in mobility on like less than 1% of plays. Exactly. To throw random numbers on it, but yeah.
Shout out to Mike and the Statcast guys. Some
Mike Petriello.
Yeah, some really cool metrics for catchers. You can see all the stuff there. They recently dropped on blocking. Yeah.
Which will push more interest on catching research too, which is what I was especially excited about. Like more so even than like the stats themselves. I'm just like, that's sick that they're starting to release these stats.
Yeah, and
what else do you want to say next?
There was I think some of the things I think like on framing it'd be cool to see some of that expanded on. Yeah. The throwing stuff is pretty cool.
Cause I'm gonna tag Petrillo in this post, bro. When I post it on Twitter, so make your wishes count.
He's done some really cool stuff, and the fact that they're putting this out for everyone to see is really cool. The blocking stuff is awesome, but you can see that it's only like Adley being the best, and he's incredible, but it's only 4 runs, 5 runs a game or a year. Yeah. So like. On the framing side, we can make just a much bigger impact there, and the difference, between your median and your high level guys, being pretty big there.
Dude, I loved when Framing War came in on Fangraphs like a few years ago, and all of a sudden Buster Posey has like 30 more career WAR. Yeah, just like borderline inner circle Hall of Famer. All of a sudden, that's sick. In, yeah, yeah.
But and that was in that research that was done back 2010, 11, starting to quantify how big of an impact receiving was really cool. And now you see teams like huge push to that way, and now you can't really get away with that. Just being a terrible receiver. And I hope that the rules don't change, because I hate to see an art like that, a skill in the game be removed. But
well, that's what I was gonna ask. Is there any concern in the catching industry about like what impact robot umps could potentially have, right? Because in theory, I don't think it's gonna go to zero, but in theory, like a lot of the framing value.
That definitely changes, right? You now go from like by far the only defensive position that's really making a huge impact. Shortstop being catchers, but take away the framing numbers, and now what are we optimizing for, right? We have to be able to block, we have to be able to throw. So I think throwing becomes even more important, where you're basically going to have, it becomes a hitting position where guys have really good arms. And so I think that's just where, like, training and setups will change to basically, I'm going to set up to be able to throw. I think, something that's already happening, we're helping guys become a lot better with their glove as far as picking goes, almost like an infielder's fielding short hops. But that throwing piece would just be critical, and then you're gonna have to hit, baby. You're gonna have to hit. And you do anyways, but it's gonna be even more important.
Who's your favorite big league catcher of all time?
Of all time? I think it's, growing up in my age, like, Pudge, like watching him was pretty cool, and he had absolute rockets. So I think watching him, but Yachty, him and Posey, I was just like growing up in the golden age, because those guys, Salvi, and then what JT is doing in the game right now is, in the last few years, is just incredible. He's just like incredible athlete. He does it all. He does it all really, really well.
Just gets hurt a little bit too much, right?
Yeah, there's been a little bit of that. But you see those tools get paid. And, he's just really fun to watch. I really like Chucky Robinson. So hearing the stories from Bodie, and him having a good arm, and I like his skill set. So, but it's a cool position, and so many guys back there, and those guys, like, a lot of times the character of the guys behind the plate just has to be a little bit different, kind of being in a position to lead a team and be an extension of the coaching staff and work with pitchers, like a lot of,
that to me has always been really cool, like pitcher catcher relationships. Like I kind of love when a elite pitcher has like a kind of backup catcher as his guy. You know what I mean? And like he's always getting, like, he's just gonna get at least like 1/5 of the at bats. Like anytime that if Greinke or Kershaw have a guy, like it just who's catching him. I was gonna say my guy used to be Russell Martin. I fucking dude. I like, especially when I first started following, like
he could hit a bit.
When I first started following like really getting into MLB stats and stuff, I just thought it was like so sick how his stat line was so unique for a catcher. Like he almost had like 2020 seasons. In 07, 08, like around that time, like could hit, could walk. Also got a huge boost once framing work kind of came in, like really underappreciated in my opinion.
No
doubt.
I
mean, and even though like he made all-star teams, like people thought he was a great catcher, but he was a really fucking good catcher.
He
catchers with wheels, dude.
He was like the original guy to he would frame the low pitch, and he wouldn't even frame it. Like most guys would like frame, like stop and hold it, and he would just go and like throw it back. And he was like kind of the original guy where it's like looking at it and you're like, that's a little different, but again, his framing metrics were good.
Dodgers needed that too. Their pitching staff was not good, bro. Like Derek Lowe, Brad Penny. remember that one year Brad Penny like started the All-Star game?
Yeah.
He had like a ridiculously low ERA before the All-Star game. He had he had like a 6K per 9, maybe even less. You know what I mean? Like his peripherals were so bad, and he had like a 2.0 ERA through like most of the season.
Brad Penny. I didn't think I'd hear that name coming in here today. Yeah, I think a lot of Stassi was another one of those guys who like kind of was a backup, but he's just like a nasty framer and made himself into a really valuable commodity because he he had that skill.
Yeah.
You know, he could catch, he could manage a staff, and he was getting strikes a really high clip for multiple years in a row without being the guy catching every day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think having those skills in the game, something we should keep in the game.
Yeah. Yeah. No, me too. I love the aspect of framing. It just brings a whole new like layer of like strategy,
Yeah.
game
Yeah.
planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously capture skills. All right, pivoting a little bit, I want to talk about some CR stories. First off, for people like not really aware, like Driveline CR is like nuts. It's always been nuts. You know, it's just like such a. I think the way we've like set up the business, there's just going to be a lot of questions that customers have, and there's always been like a lot of, you know, like one of the things I think that makes it special, but also gives us an extra a good amount of work is we always try to make it work for someone. You know, like someone can be coming in, they want like to train for a random amount of days, do a little bit of like, you know, everything, do it in another facility, go back and forth, do online, do like a hybrid of software in person, you know, like whatever. Like we'll try to, and we also get a ton of questions, and we always try to like over deliver on answering questions and kind of like just spreading knowledge that way and making connections. But when you're running CR, first off, I think you like pretty kind of cool to look back on it. You were basically head of CR in a very like important time period in Driveline history. Like when COVID first hit, and we like really redefined what we were focusing on for that like summer and fall of 2020, where we had a bunch of those like critical path meetings, and I think that's like probably the closest like me and you have worked together, right? When you're running the CR and like trying to figure out how to like make all this stuff digestible, and we're bringing in like swing profiles, pitch AI, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, and what was the squad? It was you, Skull, Besky, Sauter, and Rhodes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That to me is like that to me is like like fucking CR like all time squad, especially like just in terms of those people's backgrounds, right? Like Sauter went on to be a hitting trainer, now just got like a, you know, big role with the Red Sox. Besky went on to be like R&D some pitching trainer, also got the Red Sox. Skull's hopped around a bunch, now is assistant director of player development. You're a hitting trainer, like Rhodes, you know, sales manager, previously CR manager, who's managing like 6 people. Like, yeah, what was it like going to work with those guys on a daily basis?
I think you're right about that department in the company, and that was a particularly unique time.
Yeah.
And before that, when you guys were dropping all these really cool tools,
Yeah.
and like we're trying to explain to people how to use them, and you know, build plans around like dropping that.
Yeah.
It was just like
what the fuck is Edge?
like these guys just made something awesome,
and
like nobody knows about it,
Yeah.
and it's completely unique. It's just like how do we go, like, you know, drop this to the world, and then also explain it and have the support built around it, and track too. You know, trying to build and you know, spending lots of time talking with coaches, you know, building connections there, and just like, you know, they talk about sales, and you know, when Bodie did the sales stuff with us, it was a lot of fun, but it's just like we're selling a product, but like we're not having to sell like, you know, penny stocks.
We're selling stuff we believe in. And we're convinced is actually helpful.
And we've seen it work with other athletes, with other teams, and like we're, you know, really trying to help people is who wanted the work, you know. But yeah, that group's pretty incredible. I just got lucky being there at the right time, I guess. Right time and wrong time. COVID was extreme. It was pretty tough, but it was for everybody. So yeah, the circumstances. Regardless of that, I just got lucky. There's a bunch of grinders in there. I mean, like, Skull, Nicky, like you said, just kind of where they're all at kind of speaks to who they are as people. And but going to war every day with those guys was a lot of fun.
But what kind of competitions were you guys doing? Because I remember you guys had a leaderboard up there. Like, you'd always have like one fun category too, right? Number of vibrating massage balls sold or something. But you'd have like you'd have like, I don't know, athlete leads, like track leads maybe, like, and then you guys would like do competitions, have like a designated person every week cook dinner, for the late night closers.
Yeah.
Drop some dirt on that.
Yeah. Driveline Plus was a big one. And so we'd have competitions selling that, and then like it was always something else with apparel, or maybe it's just black plyos.
Yeah.
Bodie set up some really cool things. They were helpful for the company, and again, it's not like we were selling BS. But yeah, the competition was pretty fun. Skolnicki, of course, Soteropolis, and being super competitive. Just wanting to see things happen. I mean, like I remember, we were calling different time zones who were like, way ahead.
Yeah.
So like, it might be 8 or 9 o'clock here, but
Yeah.
if we get in the sale before the competition ends, it'll count. So we're like looking for people that are different parts of the world who might be up. Yeah. So there was a lot of fun there, but I think that crew, pretty tough to manage through that situation if it's not those guys. Really good people and just like really talented. So
tell the massage ball story, because I think Bodie's alluded to it before on a podcast, but this is like an
you should, and the next time you have Bodie on, you should have him tell it. But it was like
go ahead.
Massage balls were part of the competition, and there was a guy who was
and this is like a vibrating massage ball. It's like what, like how expensive is it?
I want to say it's like 35.
Okay,
bucks, right around there. Plus price probably like 30.
And just general like
mild fascial release.
Use
get warm up.
Whatever you're sore on. Yeah.
Actually, don't use it to warm up. Use it maybe like before you're going to bed. Yeah. Stuff like that. Yeah. But there was a city worker who came by and he like knocked on the door and said, "Hey, doing some work on this thing." And, we're always giving each other crap about sales and stuff. And he was like, and I think Jared was like, "You won't sell him a massage ball?"
Yeah.
It's like, okay, challenge accepted.
Yeah.
And I think the first time I went out, I went out, asked, what he was doing, and like, just kind of
shut
introduction. Yeah, shot the shit with him, and I had the massage ball in my hand and was kind of rolling it on and working it out, and then I went back out there again. I was like, man, you're still out here, like, you working pretty hard.
Yeah.
And talked to him about like, how hard the job is, how sore it is. Now I had the ball out there again.
Yeah.
And then I was like, if you need anything, need some water or anything, like come in the office right here. And he was like getting about to get finished, and I was like, man, what do you do when you go home? Like, talking to him about waking up in the morning sore every day. And I was like, like we train athletes, and they have to deal with soreness too, and here's one of the tools we use. And man, he put in his hand, turned it on, had him feel it a little bit, and he was like, man, this actually seems pretty. He's like, I can just, all I had to do is like roll out on it, showing him how to do it, and basically a full demo walkthrough. And all the guys, like, usually like the phones are off the hook, there's there's stuff going on, and all the guys are just like kind of just like on pins and needles, like kind of waiting, like no way this happens. And sure enough, man, he pulled out the card and bought it on the spot.
Let's go, baby. Close.
That guy's been getting his myofascial release, dude, and for a couple years now. So shout out to him.
Let's go.
Being prepared every day when he goes to work.
Let's go.
I think he's the real hero in the story.
We should do. Maybe we should do a.
I'm just linking people who want it. And want, the information. They want the tools to do their jobs better. Yeah. That's all we are, is a link.
We got to put
to those products.
We got to put a form on the website for for people from other industries. Are you also experiencing myofascial soreness? Yeah, dude. Also, I was gonna say the other CR reference I was gonna make. Oh, okay. Well, this might be. I don't know if this is gonna put you on the spot or not. I also don't. I think this is you. I think this is you. It could have been Jerry, but I think this is you. Um, one of my other favorite, like, well, like I saw this one with my own eyes, so it wasn't more so a story where I didn't see the massage ball, but I feel like I remember you. I feel like I remember you underestimating how little like airflow 5'4" had, and making fish for lunch one day.
God, you had to bring this up, bro.
Bro, I'm just that's just one of my that's one of my favorite memories because you were just like so that you're like
You're reliving it, dude. That was pretty much dead and forgotten, dude. You can't. God. Yeah, yeah.
I gotta sell you a massage ball so you can roll out the
Yeah.
bad memories from that.
Yeah, Engelbrecht is probably the main one guy who'll never forget, and
Yeah.
he wore me out about that. He was like having troubles working because of the smell of fish for a day. But yeah, man, lesson learned.
Yeah.
Don't try to steam cod
Yeah.
in the microwave at work.
Another random story, less on the spot, but another random story that I think I've mentioned before in a pod. I was joking about this with Engels. But remember when we threw like that July 4th barbecue at the old
Yeah.
beach house, and like like that one I think I planned like literally a few hours before. I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna invite a bunch of people from Driveline. It's not really, it's gonna be just basically Driveline plus extension, which is what it turned out to be. It ended up being like 60, 70 people. I remember like Starwall showing up with like multiple Captain Morgan handles, and I was like, damn, this might turn into a party. But like early on, there were not many people there, and I think I remember when Lindley. Well, I'd been hyping it up. Like Lindley had just kind of moved to Washington. I'd been hyping it up. I was like, bro, we're gonna throw like a rager, like we're gonna have like a bunch of girls there, like whatever. And like Lindley shows up with his now ex-girlfriend, like downstairs in the garage. Like I run downstairs to let him in, and he's like, how many girls we got here, bro? And I was like, we just got our first lady. Like like his girlfriend was the only girl at the party at the point. And then I went back upstairs, and Engels and I made a bet on whether more or less than 5 girls ended up being at the party, and I took the over, and I won. And bro, like you helped me win quite a bit because you brought 2 girls. You brought your girlfriend and your girlfriend's friend. That I always remember that this looked kind of similar to your girlfriend. So yeah. But yeah. Anyways, want to give you a shout out. You helped cover the bet. Yeah, you helped cover the bet. Well, plus 2 on girls for any one guy at that party was huge, dude.
Yeah,
huge.
Always. That's the way to go.
Yeah. But anyways, all right, sweet man. Glad to have you on.
What took you so long? It's episode 95, dude.
I know.
We haven't even got into like the improvements from the hitting mocap, maybe like force play data.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about that. Yeah. I was kind of trying to get into it initially with the where we're in 2018 versus now, but yeah, what are the main things? Yeah, what are the main things you've what are biggest changes in the hitting assessment nowadays, and just the overall process?
I guess we did talk about the hitting assessment a bit, but yeah, I think we talk like how is my coaching at Driveline changed? Like, and we've had assessments, and we went through, when we had a batted ball report, a swing profile report off blast, and K-Vest report that we kind of all put together. And I know Stokey and I talked about kind of, putting all those together and like seeing a guy swing and like kind of knowing what was going to show up, or like seeing a batted ball report and know what else is going to show up. But I think as far as like things that have changed the way I coach here, I think the force play data stands out to me, and something recent. It's just like how people are interacting with the ground. We haven't something you can kind of see and kind of tell. You're like, man, you should be hitting the ball harder. Like, you're too good of an athlete. You're moving pretty fast. Like, what's going on here? But actually getting feedback from the mocap lab, paired up with the force play data. Has changed the way I coach for sure, and being able to see, the interaction with the ground, being able to see, the different directions of force they're putting in, and the timing of that, the free moments, like, has really made the load and the stride, getting to your launch position, that much more important.
Yeah.
Just seeing how guys produce force, and guys that are producing a lot for their stature, or not a lot for their stature. So yeah, I think that has been pretty cool. And as like if you were building anything or you were fixing
Yeah.
anything, you wouldn't start with, if you were fixing, a jacked up house, like you wouldn't do the foundation after
Yeah.
everything else, right?
Yeah. I mean,
So
we not ask Gordo because Gordo literally fixed him. Like, what he do? Maybe put in more security.
Gordo, let's put him on the horn. We're gonna
Yeah.
have to pause this and we'll FaceTime. We'll
Yeah.
call him.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think that has been like pretty incredible. And I know JP wrote a section for that.
I actually gotta have Gordo on the podcast. I've never had him on. Keep going. I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna face him and see if he picks up.
Okay. Yeah, plugging hack connect chain hitting again. Because I know JP wrote some stuff on that. It's really interesting. But yeah, it's just like, I've always been really cared about, how guys, we the loading pattern, and then like, getting into a launch position where you can create a lot of force in a short window.
Yeah.
Because we're hitting, we got to do it in a small window. But seeing the numbers associated with that, and
Yeah.
how the high level guys are just like, the timing of it,
Yeah.
and the way they interact with it is just way different
Yeah.
than our amateur guys. So
Damn, Gordo fucking big lead me. Well, to be fair, pretty random time to to
I
pick
mean,
up FaceTime.
it's late there, so
What was I gonna say? Yeah, I mean, have you seen? Yeah, because I mean, a lot of stuff for the force plate. Really, I think it's just like giving you a really good idea of strength profile, how it relates to hitting metrics too. 'Cause
yeah,
we
yeah,
built, shout out Anthony Osnax. We built like predictive bat speed models. Um, we kind of build residuals off that, like how does a predicted bat speed compare to the actual bat speed. If the predicted bat speed is too low, that means like your strength numbers are actually not good. Like your bat speed is higher than it should be, but your strength numbers are like kind of low. Like improving your strength, might be able to keep bumping up your bat speed. And then the other thing I was going to mention, kind of a little bit of a side note, but one thing I'm really excited about is like MLB continuing to refine and work on its bat speed numbers that they put out too. Because
Yeah.
I think as those become more accurate and people start talking about it more,
yeah,
it's just going to be like people are going to start caring more about bat speed. People are going to start giving more of the proper weight to how important bat speed is. And I mean, A, first off, that'll help our business, which is always nice. But B, that's just like, it's just going to also clear so much of the salad that exists around bat speed, because it's just like people can still make the claim that like, or pretend like, oh yeah, like, you can look at a swing of someone just crushing a ball, and maybe if they have like not the most violent swing or something, it might not look like the bat speed's that high. People can be like, oh yeah, it's not even bat speed, it's just timing. Like, bro, it's like, I'm not saying that's the fastest swing of all time, but like that dude has a high bat speed, So it's gonna reduce some of the bullshit, I think, about people just making them excuses when a lot of it really comes down to bat speed.
yeah. It's just an important piece to the equation, and the biggest way is you as a hitter to change that number. And cool thing about it is we have a good game plan for it.
Yeah.
Like we can train this, and you can improve this.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to put some of your training economy towards it.
It fires me up that we've been able to keep those bat speed gains up as we like have more and more elite people. And yeah, I mean, speaking of like notoriety for it too, like the ESPN articles and stuff on the Dodgers hitters that just came out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, bums me out that Gavin Lux got hurt.
I
we
know,
could have
man.
seen that.
Breaks my heart for that
fucking
guy.
bat speed increase.
Because
his
swing
And like 5 or
looks
6
really
miles
good.
or something, right?
Yeah.
Nuts.
Thought he was gonna do some pretty cool things this year, but he'll be back.
Yeah.
You haven't heard the last
Yeah,
of him, but
Mookie's been crushing it. I think I saw him like hit a homer or two in spring training already. He's looking good.
Muncie went yard today.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So yeah, that stuff's really cool. And with the higher level athletes, it's things can be easier because those guys can make adjustments, man. And they have really good body awareness and really good feedback when things change. So working with those guys can be pretty fun. And of course, nothing's a ton of, it feels really good when you see something happen on the field and it show up on the field. But even for our college guys and our younger guys, like, being able to see the bat speed increases we do, and then seeing that production change on a field. Our guys from summer who have hit 3 home runs in their whole life, have 3 home runs in their first couple weeks of, so seeing those changes, is pretty cool. Cool.
All right, we should wrap this up because I only have a little bit of time to upload this, but I was gonna say one last thing to say on air to see if we hold ourselves to it.
Yeah.
You gonna be sick if we visited Sauter and Beskey in Clearwater or Fort Myers, wherever they are, at some point.
We should have planned this episode to be from there, but you gave me an introduction, so now maybe the next episode with me we'll do with the old CR homies.
That'd be sick. I told him I want to visit them. I just gotta figure out like when would be a good time to fit in my schedule. I got 5 weddings this year, bro.
That's a good.
I'm marrying 5 people.
You're officiating for all of them?
No, I was kidding. I was trying to make a polygamy joke that I'm gonna have 5 wives. No, I got yeah. I mean, well, bro, you don't think I can pull 5 wives?
If anybody could, yeah, you could.
But yeah, I mean, we should make it out there, and that'd be sick.
All right, Sauter and Beskey, we're coming for you.
Good episode. Glad to have matching flow for once, because I'm sick of outflexing these people with my hair.
Flow bros.
But yeah,
thanks for giving me some time in here with you.
Of course,
I really appreciate it, and I look forward to the next one. Come train at Driveline. We'll see you here soon. If you got questions, call me, DM me. We'll talk about it.